that is done for. The only thing you need to know about coffee is more. Well, guys, that escalated quickly. Good morning and welcome back to Southern Roads. It has been a long time because we have been very, very busy. Unfortunately, not with British cars or boats here lately, but with all of this, our soon-to-be home. We have our house pad, we have our retention pond, and we're starting to develop the land around. This is where our pump shed's gonna be. It is a balmy 93 degrees, but fortunately the humidity has slacked off, so it actually feels very comfortable compared to the last couple weeks. So I've decided to pull the MG out of the storage, get it up on jack stands, get underneath it, and check it out, because in a few weeks we're taking a trip to Natchez, Mississippi for Brits on the Bluff. So let's get under the car and see what we need to do. Now, the first thing I wanted to do was give these U-joints a wiggle. I have for a little while suspected they were on their way out, but they weren't really making noise until I put new tires on the car, and the tires must have been out of balance, because now that the car runs smooth without vibrations, I can feel the vibrations of the U-joints, which were previously being covered up by the tires. But yeah, that is done for. So I'm gonna need a weekend to fix that. Not even gonna bother greasing these, they're done. They're gonna need to be replaced. I'm not even gonna bother check the front, I'm just gonna replace it while I'm at it. So let's move on to the next easiest thing, which is the rear diff. As far as I can tell, this diff is not leaking, but I will check the level anyway because it uses a special gear oil, one that does not eat the brass shims that set the mesh between the pinion and ring gear. So we're just going to crack that open, check the level. I think we're going to be good, but since it requires that special lube, I'm going to have to order it ahead of time and work that in there. Oh yeah, we got full to the top, and it still looks pretty clean, so I'm just gonna cap that back. Whoop. I overfilled it just a little bit so I would know the level when I pulled that plug. So good news there, don't need to order gear oil. There's all types of coffee, endless varieties of coffee, but down here in South Louisiana, the only thing you need to know about coffee is more, please. Now, I know for a fact that the transmission seeps oil, so we're going to check the level on that. It seeps oil is part of the self-rust prevention system that came standard on every British car ever built. Very ingenious, actually, as long as you remember to top off the system. Yep, I got it to the top and it's very clean. Because I did change this fluid quite recently. All right, we're good on that. Since the front end's already off the ground, I'm gonna go ahead and grease everything up here. So with all those things done, it's time to move on to another important focus today, and that is spares. I've always wanted to carry a spare fuel pump, so I picked up another Edelbrock micro pump. This is what I have in the car. It's been very reliable, but it's always good to carry an extra in case I break down or someone else in the club ends up needing one. I also have a spare ignition coil just in case. I'm not mounting this today. I'm just gonna keep it in the car just in case. So what I'm gonna do next, I've got the new one out of the box. As you can see, there's just a ring terminal ground and a bare power wire. I want to go ahead and mount spades on these. So I'm going to crawl under the car, see how the spades are mounted on the other pump, do this identically so I can just plug this in and mount it if I ever need it. Unfortunately, I have no male spades to put on the end of this right now, so I'm going to have to put that on the list. So in the meantime, I'll just fix up my box of spares. So I have a spare coil, spare cap, spare rotor, spare belt, a couple extra fuel filters. This one I'm just going to go ahead and put on the car because the fuel filter that's in it is pretty dirty. Always keep some gloves and what handful of connectors I do have, and some zip ties. I have radiator hoses too, a complete set. They just stay in the trunk. All right, so that's all the basics. Now we're going to check on something inside the car, and that is a little tiny grommet at the end of the shift selector. I think is worn out. I have a replacement. I'm going to look in there and see what it's going to take to swap that out. All right, I can't honestly say this looks bad. This may have been changed out when the car was restored, or they just don't really wear that badly. I'm going to go ahead and drop the new one in, but this is a very good spare that I'm just going to hang on to. It's in really good condition. Now I did clean this up a lot, and we're going to put fresh grease in it. The grease was black, had a lot of grit in it. So what I did was just hit this whole socket with brake clean. That's the actual arm that goes into the transmission. I was worried about dirt getting in the transmission, but that doesn't go in the gears. That's just a rod that actuates the gear. So that nylon bit fits in that cup. So I'm gonna put fresh grease on all this and then grease this again. That's something that's gonna need to be done every couple years to keep this working like new. So we'll try that out. So it's now a week later, and we are back underneath the car because we're going to be changing out the U-joints. So have it back up on the jack stands, and we'll get started. There is considerably less room in the front, so I'm going to have to do that the old-fashioned way. I think I can get a ring on there. Yeah, just got it. I can back it with another 1/2-inch wrench. Alright, so it looks like those are studs, and I don't have to back them, so alright, I've just got to get the drive shaft to stay still, and I can get these nuts backed off. Well, the camera fell over, and I was in a groove getting these started with just this, but it was finicky, so I just kept at it since I had my groove. And I think now that they're loosened up, I can get in here with this quarter drive and maybe back them out the rest of the way with the ratchet, make it a little, oh yeah, I think that's going to fit fine. Better angle for you guys, maybe? Yeah, nope, I'm going to swing the wrench right into the camera. Yeah, maybe right there. Yeah. Not terribly comfortable in the cement. If I got in a crawler, I wouldn't have much room between me and the car, so I'm just laying flat on the cement, that old cardboard. I'm good to go. If I didn't love it, I wouldn't do it. I'd find different hobbies. Alright, washer. Yeah, it's a stud, but it's keyed with a flat side. So I was never going to get that with a wrench. Probably should have done the front end first. Might have made it a little bit easier, but I can just get a hand on the other end of the drive shaft here, give it a little twist, and use that to my advantage. Now this one, see. Well, got that out. The front, not so bad. We're going to change it anyway. Real story is the rear, and it just feels terrible. It is slap. Wow, that's really loose. It is just done for. So before I even pop those out, I'm going to clean this up. This is the only part under the car that hasn't been removed and repainted yet, so it's going to get a quick clean and a coat of paint. On second thought, it is just so filthy. I think I will disassemble the U-joints, then clean it and paint it, and then reassemble. So I will go get a pair of circlip pliers, and we're going to get started on that. Yeah, I apologize for the constant thrum of that fan, but it is about 80 degrees with 100% humidity right now, so it is a real sweat jerker in this garage, in spite of the fact we're getting some much needed rain and moisture here. Hopefully a year from now, I'll be working out of a new shop. See how easily these tap out just with a socket and a light hammer. I'm just going to give this a light tap. If it doesn't come out easily and I have to wail on it with the hammer, it's better to press it out with a vise. But if she taps right out, I don't risk bending the yoke. This is the way I prefer to do it. Well, guys, that escalated quickly. It is several hours later, and I finally have some of the rear joint apart. Now, the front joint gave me trouble enough, but this rear joint, I don't know if you guys can see this, but the shaft here is grooved by the roller bearings, because this thing must have been forced in crooked, with the bearings out of whack, and it scored the entire shaft into the shape of the bearings. But yeah, this thing's a mess. Water got in it. It's nothing but rust water in here. It's in terrible condition, so we'll just continue on trying to get this thing apart. Well, guys, persistence has finally led to success. And what I'm left with now is the drive shaft and the flanges to clean up and get ready for paint. I've got the drive shaft cleaned up, and take a little break from the drive shaft because I want to address that. That is some undercoating that peeled off after it got brake fluid on it, and I'm getting some surface rust on that floor pan. So I'm going to wire wheel that out of there, and I'm going to hit it with another coat of undercoat. Well, fellas, it is now day 3, and we finally have a nice rebuilt and painted up drive shaft. This was not as easy as I hoped it would go. I ended up making about every mistake in the book, and honestly I gave up filming on it because I needed to concentrate on getting the thing assembled correctly. So we'll get this in and we'll move on to the next bit. Well, the drive shaft is in, the undercoat is sprayed, and I've just laid down the final detail, and now we're ready for Natchez.